guarantee I won't. I can't guarantee you're not going to need a drink today. I know I will. But I can guarantee we're all going to share some smiles and some laughter. As I said, I struggled this week. I just couldn't put words to my feelings. My dad sent me this picture of an orchid that my mom had bought him 4 years ago, something like that. It had been nice and everything. It bloomed last year. And this year, the blooms on it are amazing and bountiful than any year past. And that gives me some comfort knowing that she's out there telling us that, hey, we're all going to go on, life's going to be good, there's going to be colorful days and there's going to be dark days, but together we get through them. I have not shed a lot of tears since my mom passed, and so I feared that this was coming, and here it is, and you guys get to all see it. So, together we do this. I never really understood my parents' influence on me until I had children, and that mirror that they provide to any parent, and the eyes that it opens to who I am as a human being, it's pretty amazing. I see the emotional, everything on my sleeve that I get from my father, good, bad, and indifferent. I see the cool, calm, collected, and task-oriented that I get from my mom, also good, bad, and indifferent. The beauty over the last few months is that I've always seen myself as very task-oriented, nose down, get it done. And all the kind words from everybody in this room, particularly from the psychology department and social welfare. My mom always got things done at work. She crossed off those lists and she helped everybody get through every day. And I knew that. What I didn't know was the amount of heart that she put in to every action and to every task. And even just standing up here, the kind words that people have to say that, they couldn't have done their job without my mom. Some of them would not have had their job without my mom, so my mom hired them, so thank you for coming and telling me that. But, it's like I need to take a step back and really remember those words throughout my life, both as a parent and at work, and understand that I can put my nose down, I can grind, I can get things done, but the heart can be forever present in every action. So, my mom's heart was forever present, and it is today, clearly. So, thank you from my wife and myself and my two sons for being here. And I'm step away from it.
Hi, I'm Carol Riley. I'm Al's daughter. Carolyn was technically my stepmom for the last 20 years, although she was really only 8 years older than me, so we really had more of a good friendship. But I'm just going to fill in a little bit details of Carolyn's life. Carolyn was born in 1947 in Oakland, California, to Catherine and Alvin Serrao. She was the oldest of 4 children, with siblings Dan, Bob, and Kathy, and Bob and his wife Vicki are here with us today. Carolyn attended Bishop O'Dowd High School in Oakland, and then the University of San Francisco. She earned a Bachelor of Liberal Arts degree in USF in 1969 with a major in English. And it was at USF that Carolyn met biology major and future husband, Robert Scott. Carolyn and Rob were married in 1971, and in 1977, their son Gregory was born. After 27 years of marriage, Carolyn and Rob divorced, but remained good friends and devoted parents to Greg and his expanding family. Greg married Deanna Gourley in 2013, and they are the parents of two boys, Brantley and Bryson, who were the apples of their grandmother's eyes. In addition to being a wife and mother, Carolyn excelled in her career as an administrator at UC Berkeley. She served for a short time in the chancellor's office and then enjoyed a long and rewarding period as graduate advisor in the School of Social Welfare. And she was subsequently recruited by the psychology department as office manager, a position she occupied and enjoyed for many years. It was during Carolyn's time in the psychology department that she discovered fellow bird watcher Al Riley. Al was a retired faculty member of the psychology department whose wife had died in 1995. By 2001, Carolyn and Al's friendship had become a romance, and in September of that year, they were married and spent the next 20 years together, extremely happy and devoted to each other. So when Carolyn and my dad got together, it was amazing. Carolyn just seemed to glide right into our family in such a comfortable way that she really soon became an integral part of our family structure. My husband Tim used to call her the air traffic controller of our family. She knew what everybody was doing and she communicated with all of us. Carolyn was always easy to talk to. She had a lovely way of making a person feel good about what they had said. She would affirmingly say, "That's right, that's right." She was a good listener and a good communicator. When we first started talking about having or organizing a celebration of Carolyn's life, we thought we would just need one of the small rooms here at the faculty club that holds about 20 people. And as we started compiling a guest list with help from people like Lee Hafter, and Marilyn Watson, and Serena Chen, and Rona Weinstein, thank you all, we realized that we would need a bigger room. So we booked the Hines room in the back, which holds about 80 people. And then we started to hear that some of Carolyn's former colleagues would like to attend and pay tribute to her. And we got help from people like Patricia Bass and Pat Soberanis and Carrie Sweeney, who gave us names of more former colleagues that they thought would want to be included. And we realized that we would need an even bigger room. So now here we are in the great hall of the faculty club to celebrate and honor Carolyn Serrao. I think she would be amazed that this is where we are and this is how many people showed up for her. So while I knew Carolyn for over 20 years, it wasn't really until we started organizing this event that I started to see her from other perspectives. Throughout the course of receiving RSVPs from all of you for this event, we all heard anecdotes of stories from friends and colleagues of Carolyn who knew and loved her. We heard that Carolyn's friendship was highly valued, that she was a warm and wonderful person. We learned that she was a caring boss, and she was wonderful to work with and appreciated for her ready sense of humor. We heard that up until the pandemic, she still gathered for reunions with former colleagues long after she had retired. We're hoping to hear some of those anecdotes and stories about Carolyn this afternoon, so that all of us can appreciate her from each other's perspectives. And as a side note, if you were watching that slideshow, there were a couple photos of Carolyn and others in a couple different hot tubs, and we're really hoping to hear what those stories were all about. And finally, I just want to say to my dad that you could not have found a better partner than Carolyn Serrao. Carolyn was smart, she was kind, and she was empathetic. We were fortunate to have her in our lives. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for being here. This is a celebration of Carolyn's life, and it's a chance for us to all talk about what she meant to us, and collectively have that place in our hearts, which is Carolyn, and always will be Carolyn, enhanced by this broader discussion. And so we're all sad that we lost Carolyn way too soon, but we're here to rejoice about the person Carolyn is in our hearts and will continue to be. I also want to mention for anyone who has loved ones or family that could not be here, there's a gentleman in the back named Chris who is putting this on YouTube, and you can come back and look at it when you want to in the future. And there are some people who could not be here who we want to welcome via the internet as if you were in the great room. Which, by the way, I should mention, there's so much of Carolyn here. She's up on that stage over there where we sang, where Marilyn and Sheila and Carolyn sang Messiah with Melissa and a whole host of others that could barely, I think there were people being bumped off the side of the stage. It was so full during the monks' Christmas events. And for our wine dinners, she's sitting over there with Karen, having a nice wine and discussing. And so much of her is part of this room. We are here because there were so many of you, but it's also so much of Carolyn that is this room. I told a neighbor recently that we were having this memorial for my stepmother, and she said, "Oh no, in Denmark, we do not use the word stepmother. We say bonus mother." And Carolyn was very much a bonus mother to me. And there were a number of things that, as a bonus mother, were astonishing to me about her. And much of it has been said already. She was fiercely supportive of family and friends. And not just in a I love you sort of way, but in bringing her organizational artillery to bear for whatever was needed in the family. And she was amazing in her organizational skills. And that's something I never really witnessed, except for perhaps in my sister, who's also very organized. But few people have that and also hold the love in the delivery of that organization. Second, not only did she love family and did she love organization, but she was passionate about linguiça. And we, my daughter Laurel Ann and I we discovered someone at grocery outlet whose ancestors claimed to have the best linguiça recipe in existence. And Carolyn was very interested. She didn't push, but she wanted to know about this linguiça. We made a pilgrimage to the grocery outlet in Petaluma. We met with the family member who had brought the linguiça in, we are told, from Portugal, hopefully on ice. And we had quite an adventure with the linguiça, which we described to Carolyn. And at the end of this description, she said, "Yes, but did you get me any?" And so we did, and we celebrated the linguiça, and she was delighted. And I still can remember that wonderful delight in her eyes, trying this new recipe of linguiça. And I'd like to just take a moment. We're going to sing a song all together in a second. Before we do, I'd like you all to pull out your programs. And because this is a celebration of life, and the idea is to hold Carolyn in our hearts, I'd like to take a look at the cover of the program, at Carolyn's picture, and then let's just close our eyes for a moment and imagine, think with our mind's eye about Carolyn's voice, amazing way in the world, her beautiful smile. And then let's hold that for a moment or two. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to ask my wife if she would come up and lead us all in song.
Walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Rob Scott, and I want to thank Al, the Riley family, for putting this beautiful ceremony together. And Al, in particular, I want to thank you for your openness, your generosity, and your kindness in all the years that I've known you, especially your years married to Carolyn. It's much appreciated. Carolyn and I met at USF. We were both freshman English teachers. And she was quiet, she was studious, but she hung around with a group of young ladies who thoroughly enjoyed campus life. We didn't get to be terribly friendly. We were in the classroom together. It was things like literature classes, American lit, English lit, poetry. And then in June of '68, I gave up on Shakespeare. And I decided I need to do something else. So I transferred to Berkeley as a zoology major. You were close. And then in late October, early November of that year, Carolyn called me out of the blue. She invited me to the Christmas forum. And I said yes. And remembering this quiet, kind of sheepish person, when she opened the door that night to the wall, she was a transformed person. She was confident, she was lovely, she wasn't wearing glasses, she was wearing contacts, she had a beautiful bob hairdress, and she made a beautiful, beautiful dress. And when you saw on the screen, she made her wedding gown. And we'll get to that in a minute. We started dating sometime after that, and in August of '69, sitting out on the lawn somewhere out here, she told me, we were picnicking, and she said, Bob, because I was known as Bob then, she said, Bob, if this relationship is gone and to get stronger, you need to change your name. I said, what? She said, well, my younger brother is Bob, and Bob's that big. Bob, Bob and Bob, it's confusing to my folks and my family. So, would you mind being called Rob? And I thought, oh, I like that. So, Rob came about because there were too many Bobs in the Serrao family. Carolyn enriched my life in so many ways for so many years. And I just want to share a few of those with you. They're much more personal, and I do appreciate Carol, Tom, you got her to a T. Beautiful. First thing, cats. We always had a running discussion about how incorrigible cats were. And it was like, no, they're just incredibly curious. No, your ankle is not what they're after. They're after prey. Even though those tiny little paws, those tiny teeth hurt so much, she would, always stick up for Cleo, and then our Obo would flew. There was a time when Obo, he was 76 or so, I had this beautiful Boston fur in the living room. And Obo would run, leap, and land right in the middle of me and stare right back up at me. And I'd scream. And Carolyn, would go, he's not trying to destroy it, he's not trying to be rebellious, he's just trying to find a place to nap. And then she would calmly pull out a spray bottle and spray him, and off he'd go. So, Carolyn made me understand that you give up a little ego when you deal with cats. And that was perfectly fine. Over the years, I've had many cats, and to this day, I enjoy them immensely. One last thing about cats. On March 18th of 2021, Carolyn and Al and other friends were over at my place watching the San Francisco Ballet's Romeo and Juliet. And my cats, Yoshi and Blue, are not terribly friendly with people, but towards the death scene in Romeo and Juliet, for some reason, towards that scene, Blue comes walking out, smelling, smells everybody, jumps up on Carolyn's lap. I've got photos of that and the video of that. And one moment I thought, as she's petting him, and she's looking over at me, both of them are purring. Another thing is, I don't know if you knew how terrified of flying Carolyn was, how terrified of heights she was. And I didn't realize that until we had to go to, I forget what building it was in San Francisco. And she said, can we take the stairs? And I said, we're going up 22 floors. Can't we take the elevator? She said, I guess we can. And up to that point, whenever we traveled and we had to go up flights of stairs, she would always walk. And I thought, oh, it's great exercise. Good for us. We're doing it. Well, we got in the elevator. She held onto my hand. And as the elevator door closed, she grimaced. All the way up to the 22nd floor. The elevator stopped, made a little She got out and she said, now you know. I can't stand elevators, I don't like heights. And to tell you how courageous and brave a person she is, in, I think it's 76, Carolyn and I flew across country from San Francisco to Washington, D.C. to visit my brother out in Annapolis. And the whole time, it was white knuckles. By the time we landed, I needed an orthopedic surgeon to straighten my fingers. But, she got better. She improved, and to this day, she became a much better traveler and a much more comfortable traveler, although takeoffs and landings were still white knuckle time. All right, Tom already did the linguista thing, so I'm going to go on and just go to Scott's specials. And being the practical person that she was, every 2, maybe 3 weeks, probably less sometimes, depending on what we have been eating, we never threw anything away. It got wrapped up neatly and it went into the refrigerator. And every 2 weeks or so, Carolyn would put everything out on the counter. She would look at it, she would pull out some spices, and she would put together a wonderful quiche, or a casserole, or a stir fry. Carolyn had it all over Alice Waters when it comes to recycling food. Being a seamstress, she got that from her mother. Kate was a wonderful seamstress, and Carolyn loved sewing. And whenever we traveled to Europe, particularly Paris, there's one store that she would gravitate to. She had to go to Galeries Lafayette. Because downstairs, they had aisles and aisles of fabrics, beautiful fabrics. And while I was upstairs getting t-shirts for him or t-shirts for somebody else, she was piling up rainbows of colors of fabrics. She would put them in her luggage, get them home, and within months, she was wearing dresses, new blouses, and skirts. Shakespeare was a major trend of events for me. Having left USF, I thought I'd never have to feature Shakespeare in my life again, but Carolyn being the live theater lover that she was. And we did student rush tickets for ACT, we did Berkeley Rep, and then along came Ashland, the Shakespeare Festival. She loved that. That was her adult Disneyland. She would book us into B&Bs so that she could talk with the owners and with the other guests about the actors and what was happening behind the stage. She just loved that. She loved spending time on the bricks, which is this large patio area outside the theaters. And she would watch and try to look for the different actors as they came in and came out. She was just, instead of writing down the bird name, she would write down an actor's name. I saw someone, oh, he's in this play tonight, or she's in that play. She just loved that. We took you up there too. Yeah. And then on the way home, she would try, on the way home to the Central Valley, she would try over and over again to get me to really believe in Shakespeare. And that was hard. I do enjoy some of his history plays. She enjoyed them. And one other thing that I know people touched on in one way is Carolyn was a wonderful note writer. I don't know how many people in this room ever received a note from her, but she was so caring, so loving, and she had beautiful penmanship, and she had beautiful thoughts. And I always received birthday cards or whatever occasion cards, not with just a signature, but with an expression, with a quote. Robert Frost, Shakespeare. Books that she gave me always had some wonderful inscription. And I know that is something that she passed on to everyone that she came into contact with. And so, to end, I would like to take the words from a song that she, from a play that she really enjoyed. The words are for good, and the musical is Wicked. And so I tweaked the words a bit. We've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, we don't know if we believe that's true, but we know we are all today because we know you, Carolyn. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood, who can say if we've been changed for the better, but because we knew you, we have been changed for good. It may well be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let us say before we part, so much of us is made of what we've learned from you. You'll be with us like a handprint on our hearts. And now, whatever way our stories end, we know you have rewritten ours by being our friend. Like the ship blown from its moorings by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if we've been changed for the better? But because we knew you, Carolyn, because we knew you, we have been changed for good.
Thank you for coming. As you know, Carolyn and Greg and Rob were Annie's and my friends for years before Carolyn and Rob started company. I didn't know Carolyn well. She was a friend, but I didn't know her well. And apparently, I interviewed her to be the office manager in psychology. I don't remember it, but I was told that it happened. Some 2 or 3 years after Annie's passing, I thought Carolyn might like to go errand watching with me. She was a birder, I was a birder, and we went out up the Sacramento River. This side of Sacramento, there are dead-end roads, and on one of them was a nest of herons. We found it and had a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful evening that I think started our romance. And so after 2 or 3 years, we became clearly enamored. And I thought I would ask Carolyn if we were living together. We should be very clear about that. Living together. And I asked her if she would like to be my wife. And she thanked me, gave me no answer. Time went by. Now there was a 25-year gap in our ages. And I think the thought of marrying this old guy was daunting. And it was fun to live together, but being married is a much more serious business. And after maybe a couple of weeks, she said that she would like to marry me. And I went and asked her parents if it was okay with them. And it turned out that it was. And I don't know exactly what she thought, but I'm sure she sensed that I needed her and that it was vitally important to me that she be my bride. So she was willing to take a chance, which was characteristic. She was a giver of herself. And I think thought of other people before she thought of herself. So we were married in the September of 2001 when I was 79 and Carolyn was 54. What was it like? Well, Carolyn was brave, as I've said, a little crazy, gentle and kind, and a wonderful partner in adventures. We had many. We went to the North Pole and the South Pole, or as near to them as we could get, and went to Europe and Asia, and traveled around. And we were grandparents together. And that gave her, I think, great joy. She was brave and gentle, fun-loving. I said we took ballroom dancing lessons together for 2 years. And it was great fun. And we lived together on Grizzly Peak Boulevard, but nifty condominium on the south side of the campus and moved. That was a great move and a great decision. Probably it was related in part to Hildy and Dad had moved out of the crash house. And I think maybe the reasons might have been the same, but they had a nifty combo condominium, thank you very much. And we looked for one kind of like and top it until we moved. So just my thoughts about Carolyn. She was a gentle soul, but very, very strong. And if she thought something should happen, by God, it happened. She was organized, as Rob has said. Rob, not Bob. But some. She was loving and wise. She was my sweetheart, and was for 25 years. I miss her every day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laureline Riley. I'm that lovely man's granddaughter, and those are my siblings over there. And I wanted to share some memories of Carolyn and what her presence in my life taught me. I want to share my first memory of her, my last memory of her, and a couple in between. The first time I met Carolyn, I was 4 years old. Our little brother Liam wasn't born yet, and Alden was like about to be born. And our parents, we were living on the Bay at the time, and our parents pulled Amelia and I aside and sat down with us, and they said, "Okay, so Papa's about to come visit us, and there are a couple things we want you to know ahead of time and act normal." And so the first thing is that Papa has grown a beard. Act normal. And the second thing is that he's dating someone very special who's coming to meet you today, and her name is Carolyn. And Carolyn bravely came into our chaotic lives and so lovingly and enthusiastically immersed herself in our family of 2 and then 3 and then 4 screaming Riley kids. And only as we got older did she share how much we really were to handle. Like in the middle of the chaos, we didn't even really notice, but she was brave. She was really brave to immerse herself in our world. And she never let it show. She was just showed up and with her whole heart and was present with us. And she was bravely and lovingly there for birthdays, graduations, Christmases, dance recitals, morning pastries and coffee out on the Bay, and all of the memories in life where I felt surrounded with love and family and the joy of being together. Carolyn was there. And she wasn't only there, but she was there with her full heart. Because there was something special about Carolyn that I've grown to see clearly since she passed, and I've been reflecting on it a lot lately, which is just something that a lot of folks have named already. Just her calm, loving, and attentive essence that she brought to every single conversation, the way that she looked you in the eyes and just really, really listened. way that she spoke with just this like depth and thoughtfulness, and just like really felt every conversation that you were having. And she wasn't in a hurry. She was like really took the time to be a presence with who she was talking to. She'd really drop in and would ask questions from a place of deep curiosity. She'd close her eyes sometimes and be intentional about exactly what she wanted to say. And I feel like when we would all get together, she was really kind of taking in everything that was happening around and was really listening to the whole feeling of the gathering, and really feeling, hearing the feeling in your answer, like really being generous with the way she listened. And when I lived in Berkeley, I got to know Carolyn better as a slightly more grown person. I stopped by Papa and Carolyn's house and drop into their morning rituals of coffee and granola and bird watching and reading. And we'd sit and talk, and she was always reading a new book. She like must have read so fast because she was always reading a new book, and she would always be sharing about it. And I was thinking about how like the same love that she brought to every conversation, she really brought to, she brought this like love and concern and care to all of humanity. Like she was really working through where our world is at right now, and would talk a lot about that. And she was always wanting to hear more stories and gain more perspective on the pain and also the beauty of the world. And I wanted to just quickly share about the last memory I have with Carolyn. The last time I saw Carolyn, she was laying in bed and the light was shining on her, and she was surrounded by flowers brought to her by all the loved ones coming to visit her. And we visited for a while, and when I tried to say goodbye, I got all choked up and was stumbling on my words, and she looked me straight in the eyes and opened her arms and just said, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And those are the words I just felt like her whole essence came through, just her essence of love. And so looking at campus today, it just really reminds me of her, like Greg was talking about with the flowers and the blooming, and my dad was talking about the space. There's just this like calm, serene energy in the air, and yeah, I think she touched all of our lives with her thoughtfulness and her presence and her deep care for everyone around her and for the future of humanity. And so my takeaway is to continue her legacy of looking out for each other and being in presence when we find ourselves hurrying, slow it down, be with the person in front of us, and live from a place of feeling and wonder and care. And yeah, I think her love lives on in all of us today and will continue to grow as we all grow. Thanks.
We're going to open this up to get some perspective from anyone in the audience who would like to share. We have 2 mobile microphones, and I will put on a mask and then bring it to you if you raise your hand, or Carolyn. I will, because I have a mask. Anyone in the audience would like to share?
Carolyn, calm, collected, and always in control, and yet an unpretentious soul. Ready with a loving smile on the sight of friends, or while listening to a grandchild's voice. Yes, her love was unconstrained. Now with us, that love remains.
Thank you, John.
Hi, Rona Weinstein, colleague from the psychology department. So much has been said already that's so true. In the history of our department, the Riley and Keppel families are like royalty to us, the intermarriage, and now the Serrao family has joined in that lineage. So it's a special moment to share, as you said, Greg, in this hall, in this place. It's very meaningful to us. Too little do we talk about the role of staff in our lives here at the university. There would be no research, no teaching, if it wasn't for their wonderful efforts. And Carolyn, as so many are, but was unbelievably special. And there were so many young faculty in the era she was here that were welcomed into the department. She loved them like her own kids and made sure they had housing, made sure they had childcare, made sure they understood how the university worked. Any problem she could solve. We know that. But what hadn't been said yet is that her office and that seat, you could sit in it anytime during the day, and she would listen. She would ask, how was your day? How are you feeling? I would get notes before the semester began. Are you ready? You know, how are you feeling about getting started again? And there was such joy when Al and Carolyn got together, their wedding, the life they lived together, and I think all of us just beamed that they had a second chance at love, and they had such a wonderful time together. And how she approached her fate and her final days, it's a lesson for all of us. She just accepted it with incredible grace and love. And that's the lesson. She lived till the very last moment she could, and when the time came, she said goodbye. And it was a wonderful life, and we're all so lucky to have had her in our lives.
And it's hard to add to all of the things that everyone said, but there are two aspects of Carolyn that we haven't attended to. She was a superb cook, and not just a cook, but she could organize dinners. She and Al had combinations of interesting people, and the pacing was very slow. And time was allowed for really intense intellectual, political discussions to emerge around Carolyn's table. And she quietly brought out one remarkable dish after another. I'll never forget her. And one footnote, Al talked about how much older he was, and she took that on. But she also became a caregiver and caretaker with her characteristic quiet lovingness. And when I would call for information, she would give me a thorough report and a reassuring report. And I was really impressed.
My name is Barbara Cullinane. We've been hearing about all the ways, such a loving in ways. And I wanted to speak to her role as a daughter. Her parents were residents of David Court in Castro Valley, where I directed social services. And she was surprisingly a regular and loving and attentive daughter.
Hi, I'm Pat Soberanis. Carolyn hired me in 1999, and I stayed until 2005. We stayed in touch after that for several years, and we periodically would get together with some of the other staff that were there when she was there. One of the pictures from one of those lunches was up there. She always showed up. She was always with us. She always had our back. She invited us to her wedding, for Pete's sake. I mean, she was just very down to earth and unpretentious, as someone said. And just, even though she had aspirations, she loved the campus, she loved her role. She may have even had aspirations to be a professor herself. She had that intellectual ability and capability. But she also could just talk to us and included us in everything. So there's some other things that I'll leave it there, just show her warmth and empathy. I can still hear her laugh, like that sort of low rumble that would start out and then become infectious as she got going. And I can still hear her laugh and big smile and just a wonderful memory.
Hi, I'm Vicki Serrao, married to Bob, not Rob. The very first time I met Carolyn, it was when we went down for Christmas. Okay. We went down for Christmas, and I was a very wild and hippie-looking young woman at the time, and so was husband. But Carolyn opened her arms to me, always. Made me feel like I was part of the family from the minute I walked into the door. And we laughed together, we cooked together, we schemed on the rest of the family together. We may not spend as much time with them as a family as with our logistics, but we didn't love each other any less. And I will miss her.
As a former chair of the department, and I know there are a number of former chairs here besides Al, perhaps Karen DeBoy and others, I just want to say that we've heard a lot about Carolyn's character this afternoon and the person she was, and it's all true. She was calm, she was sympathetic, understanding, etc. And I just want to say that in my 5 years, 6 years, it was a pleasure to work with Carolyn. She wasn't working for me, she was working with me, and it was a joy to come in every day, talk to her about what we're going to do, etc. So she was a real benefit to the department and to the university. And whatever the department has become, she deserves a lot of credit for it.
Hello, I'm Dane. My wife is Al's niece, I think. There's a complicated family for you to get in later. I'll tell you about it. I would have to say when I first met Carolyn, I was honestly a little intimidated. Her sense of humor was a little quicker than my mind. And I wasn't sure what I was getting into. But of course, as you've heard, it turned out just like you've heard today. And the memory that I have of Carolyn is my boys are now 22 and 19, and I've been raising them since they were 10 and 12 on my own. And Carolyn would ask me, she'd get me in the corner, get me on the side when I was visiting, and she'd say, "How are your boys?" And it wasn't a question for which I could have no answer or just give a couple of words. She really wanted to know how they were and how it was going for me. And that really, really meant a lot. And I think that's how she is.
I didn't know Carolyn when I first ended up working with her. I was teaching a class, or wanting to teach a class, for teacher educators in the summer. And I needed a week-long place between my home. And I went to Carolyn, and I just thought maybe there was a classroom or something. And she just took over. She took me upstairs to the 5th floor, the wonderful, great big room, and she reserved it for me for 5 days, so I could run. No connection, except John was in the department, but he was out there, no connection. I got to run that workshop 5 years in a row. After that, I got to know Carolyn as a friend. Not because of the workshop, but because we ended up going to Berkeley Rep together. And anybody who goes to Berkeley cigarette with somebody else becomes a friend. So my life was enriched by Carolyn early on in an analytic, professional sort of way, but in the end, in a personal, warm, and loving way.
My name is Bill Prince-Metal. I'm a retired faculty member, and I was one of those people who, my first year here, Carolyn helped me in desperate needs, including telling me where the bathrooms were on the fourth floor. It's quite a problem. But I found out that she read recreationally, and I read a lot recreationally, and I didn't know about her pedigree and with Shakespeare and the great books, but I had a book that I thought she might enjoy, and I really hardly knew her, so it took a little courage on my part to recommend this book. It wasn't on the New York Times bestseller list or the Oprah Book Club. It was called Blood-Sucking Fiends, about a vampire in San Francisco. So I lent her this book, and I said, you're going to enjoy this book, and it'll lighten your life up. And I came back about 2 weeks later, and very severely she said, Bill, that's the worst book I've ever read. And then she paused for a little bit and said, I laughed from the first page to the last page.
Thank you, Bill.
I wanted to say about this song that we sang, it was sung at our wedding, at Tom's at 9, and then when Al and Carolyn were getting married, they said, would you two come and sing this at our wedding? And even though we think of it as a wedding song, I started thinking about it and listening to the feeling behind it, and it's about love and community. And she loved this song also. So we thought it would be fun to remember for our last thing that we're doing all together here before we enjoy the food and each other's company, that we sing about love and giving ourselves to love and being there for each other and being a community. And if you know it, sing along. If you don't, pretend.
Yes, now I am.
Hi, friends all gathered round. There's something I will say, that which brings us together here, has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family and loneliness can't hide. You must give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire, is planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you what you need. Love comes when you're ready, love comes when you're afraid. It'll be your greatest teacher, the best friend you have made. So give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your hearts to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. One more time. Give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love.